Guys, welcome back to another episode of A2 The Show, the most international podcast. Today we have Hogan Shrum, who is a CEO and co-founder of a marketing agency called A Little Bird, and also the co-founder of PIPPA, which is an AI platform that helps animators create animations and content through that platform. Hogan, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Syed. Good to be here.
Hogan, when me and Ali were like, we're also a bit of obviously creatives ourselves, and when we were doing our research on AI animations and the way that it's just filling up our algorithm and it's just filling up the whole social media sphere, just there's a lot of AI slop, there's a lot of AI content that sometimes you don't even know if it is AI or not. And there's this fear that we think about or like that crosses our mind. Is AI supporting animators or is it replacing them?
hmm
And we kind of wanted to get your opinion about it since that's what PIPPA is about. So maybe you could
Yeah,
talk us through it,
yeah.
tell us more.
It's a great question. It's a big foundation of what we built PIPPA to avoid. Actually, I think the
Hmm.
short answer is yes. There are a lot of animation platforms popping up that are in fact taking not just from animators, from artists in general.
Hmm.
And you could say that for any kind of AI generation, whether it's animation or imagery or graphic design, any of these things, right? So I would say that if anything, graphic designers, artists are probably even more impacted than animators themselves because all these AI engines and platforms have basically wholesale stolen everyone's artwork to build all of these different styles and learn and train and how to recreate these things. And so when we built Pippa, or what we've built with Pippa, is actually we're trying to go the other way. And what I mean by that is
Mm.
our focus is on not just enabling creative control in a way that we've never done before, that AI has never done before, but also partnering with artists and offering animation styles that are licensed by artists.
Mm.
And so, in so doing,
Okay.
anytime anyone creates a graphic, anyone creates an image, for every second of animation that's created using an artist's licensed style, they are paid for that. Because we really believe
Okay.
we're in this kind of a Napster moment with AI right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? Where at the beginning, for a good year and a half, 2 years, everybody was just straight up stealing music on Napster. And and
That's true.
eventually,
Yeah.
I think two things came out of that. One was regulation, which was absolutely
Mm.
necessary, but it also really changed the
Mm.
landscape of how people discover and consume and create musical content. Apple like saw that this was shifting the way things were going, created the 99-cent song. iTunes is born, streaming is born, and
Hmm.
without that movement, we wouldn't have a lot of the artists we have today, arguably. Whether it's YouTube, SoundCloud, or the numerous others, so many new artists were discovered by their ability to post and release their own music through this distribution system that really did result from figuring out the Napster problem. And
Hmm.
right now, we're in the similar sphere where it's been the Wild West. AI's grown so fast. They've been building these
Right.
machines that just train to be as advanced as possible without any regard for the ethics behind the work that's being stolen. But it's also removed human beings, the human
Mm.
creativity behind content creation. And that's why you have AI slop, because you watch it and pretty quickly you realize this was made by a machine. Because you know,
Right.
AI in general is just designed to sort of meet in the middle. It takes all available information, and then inevitably you're in the middle, and you're playing it safe to a degree, but it also is kind of monotone, flat. It doesn't have the sort of human impact that all of us instinctually feel. And so, again, building Pippa wasn't just about, okay, we want to do this the right way, protect artists,
Hmm.
but a lot of these AI platforms, and I'm sure you're familiar, we've all used them at this point. When you're trying to create something, unless you're a super hardcore prompting expert filmmaker that uses really advanced tools, You're writing up a prompt to the best of your ability. You maybe upload some photos, and then you click a button, and you're hoping, like every engagement with AI, it sends you back something you want. And
Yeah.
most of the time, it's a compromise, right? Because
Yeah.
it's filling in the gaps, and that's what makes it feel AI. That's what makes it feel like slop. And so we built PIPPA to not only protect artists, but enable creative control throughout the process of creating these animations so that it does actually feel like a human created it.
Amazing. And one of the big things you mentioned I wanted to learn more about is about how you're like hiring artists to help with the um with feeding into Pippa.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know, like, yes, if you're using other AIs and you're prompting them to make art or animations, they're actually stealing, like you said, different people's artworks. Um, there was a huge trend a year back where people were doing Studio Ghibli prompts, and then they were making Studio Ghibli animations, and they thought they were really cute, and then yeah, Hayao Miyazaki himself came out and said that he thought it was awful that they were doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what do you? Yes, how are you trying to address this issue?
Yeah. So a few different ways. First and foremost, transparently, since we launched, cold start problem, if you will, and we still have some AI styles available on there. But we've onboarded artists. We have about 3 or 4 artist styles that are now licensed and approved and available. And then as we add artists, we eliminate the AI styles.
Mm,
So the goal, honestly, is within the next few months, 100% of the styles available on PIPPA are all licensed by artists. And the process that we go through there has a few layers, but most importantly, at the beginning, artists engage. They say, "Hey, I want to be part of this." We need they send, call it 15, 20 samples of their work, which then goes through our detection system to ensure they were in fact created by a person and not AI. One of the better things about AI is
hmm
that it's very good at detecting AI.
This is
I mean,
true.
down to just like the pixel level, like that
hmm
crazy. And so anything that gets flagged as even being, let's say a human being created it, but they edited it with AI, that would not be approved. It has to truly be original human artwork. And so once it passes that test, we work with the artists themselves to train the AI on their style and go through multiple iterations, test animations, etc., for them to review, approve. If they aren't approving, they're sending us additional styles or giving us notes on how they want it to look exactly. And then once they've approved it, they then have the option to either make it private for themselves, like we have some artists like a children's book author
hmm
or others that, or animators, for example,
hmm
that don't want to license out their work, but they want the efficiency and the creative control that PIPPA allows to be able to create more of their own content, but they don't want it to be public. So it can be made private where only they see that style available. Or they can choose to license it and make it public to our users, in which
Okay.
case, on the back end, we track each artist has a unique tag that's every single image, every single second of video animation, they get a share of the token revenue, pretty substantial share at that. And that actually compounds exponentially over time. And if
hmm
you think about it, you've used AI before, even with the most amount of creative control you can have based on limitations with AI models now, it doesn't get it right the first time. So imagine you're making a 3 minute
Right.
video. Really, you've probably produced about 9 to 12 minutes of animation to get it exactly the way that you want to get it.
Right.
And the
Hmm.
artist is paid for all of those, regardless of if it's used what the final product is, right?
hmm
And basically, having done the math, if you're once we hit say 250,000 users, which is pretty small in the scheme of things, um, an artist who basically, let's say they're one of the more popular artists and they represent 5% of the animations that are done on the platform, they stand to earn between $100 and $125,000 a month just based on their work. So it's a
Wow.
really significant opportunity for artists. And beyond the individual artist shares, we also set aside a 5% revenue pool that is shared amongst all the artists. And that is to, again, account for any of the AI styles that are out there and continue to give back. So you earn your own revenue. And then at the end of every month, we have a pool that's divided up based among how much each artist is contributing and how many times their styles are being used. And then we set aside an additional 3% of our revenue that goes to nonprofits that support arts education, children in the arts, etc. So we're really trying to create an engine here that feeds the artistic community, not
Hmm.
just in, oh, we're giving away 3% to nonprofits. Like, we're putting it into actual action and giving it directly to the artists.
Wow, amazing! I like that
That's
model you guys have going. Said?
Yeah.
yeah, that I agree. It's a really great model, and it really encourages and it feels like it's empowering artists to, you know, really find a way to integrate AI into their work instead of, being in contrast with it, trying to find a way to balance it out so that they can be able to create content using the tools instead of just the tools making out like outworking them. And
Mm-hmm.
but the something I do want to question about that is we've seen a lot of like AI slop, but also a lot of AI content that's actually good. I remember
Mm-hmm.
me and Ali, we were looking at uh, a video that was created. Sorry, it was actually a short movie that was created
Mm-hmm.
by Higgsfield AI, and it was posted on YouTube maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it had
Yep.
obviously AI versions of Israel Adesanya and Neon the streamer, and also MK, who's a basketball streamer as well, and they
Mm-hmm.
had their faces like really down to the point, and it was really good content.
Yep.
So how how does Pippa compete with them? How do create artists, even independent artists, how do they compete with that if it's getting to the point where it's maybe even better than artists?
Yeah, so I think you're talking about the Cully Hill Boys that just
Mm-hmm.
released.
The
Yes,
feature
exactly.
film. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you brought that up. So, one, I think it's fun. The reason I say it's interesting you brought that up is we're in some conversations with a couple producer, director, writers out of Hollywood that are fairly well known. Still part of that
Yeah.
sort of small group that sees AI as an opportunity, not as an existential threat across the board. And they brought it up to us over the weekend, and they said, "Look, like, this is actually huge for the industry because what they did do is they licensed those those call it actors that were recreated, those the
Right.
faces that are on there, those were licensed by those people. I think the difference here is, Higgsfield is it's a very powerful platform, but again, it really does require a user to be a pretty deep expert on video prompting within AI. An
Hmm.
average 10-second clip is probably 3 or 4 paragraphs of prompting for 10
Wow.
seconds. Where
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So you're giving it, think about it this way and this is what our platform does. And I can share a little bit how it bridges this gap, but uh, you know, in a 10-second clip, you need to tell Higgsfield, which then uses different video models like Cdance, for example, to generate the animation. For every second that's in that clip, you're describing what's happening to the second. And it needs to be detailed enough
Mm.
to not only cover the main focal point of who's on camera or what the action is,
Right,
but it
right.
has to get the scenery right in the background. So imagine we're just looking at a podcast. If I want to prompt Higgsfield to recreate this podcast, I have to, in every second, describe everything in your background, Saeed,
Mm-hmm.
everything in your background,
Yeah.
Ali, your facial expressions, your
Mm-hmm.
movements, right? You swiveling in your chair. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that make it feel human, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the natural movement.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
so if you think about that exponentially to the second, not the minute, the second, a
Oh
2 hour
my
movie is a
God.
massive, massive undertaking that takes a ton of time and can be done by a
Yeah.
select group of people that have that level of expertise. What we're trying to do and what PIPPA does is it takes that hard work out of the equation for the user. So what we do
Hmm.
is I can describe and share images of you, Ali,
Hmm.
your backgrounds, and then in my own words, explain what I want to happen in these scenes. And then our engine will create the super detailed sea dance prompt for you that you can actually see. And so instead of starting from scratch in every scene, you are starting with a fully written C dance video prompt down to the seconds, but you can review it in
Okay.
a way that you can say, oh, okay, this makes sense. I see what's happening. It's kind of like reading a screenplay, right?
Mm.
And then if you see issues where you're like, it shouldn't take 5 seconds to say, that's cool. That's going to look weird
Hmm.
because there's going to
Right.
be this
True,
weird,
true.
awkward pauses. And so you have the ability to see that. And for people that say have some experience filmmaking or creating content, but not the expertise to prompt AI like that, they can still create these videos like Higgsfield is creating at a fraction of the cost and in a fraction of the amount of time to create these things. And
Mm,
so going back to when we're speaking to these people in Hollywood, for example, what they're most interested in is pipeline. They're like, this is like what happened with YouTube and the empowerment of people being able to film with their phones when that technology got to that point is we've now
right.
democratized creativity to a level where there are millions of people out there that have ideas for stories and potentially animated content that have never been able to build it or even come close to realizing and
Right.
putting those ideas out there. Just like the Napster model with musicians, if you enable people to now bring their ideas to life and remove this crazy exclusive expertise that's required to do it, you now have a much larger pool of content, ideas, creativity that
Hmm.
allows studios, television, small independent filmmakers the ability to either discover or even, hey, I have like 6 ideas in my head about what shows or whatever I want to create, I can now create a 3 to 5 minute teaser or call it treatments in the past for Hollywood have been like a sheet of paper that describes what it is and you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping the studio gets it. Now I could
Hmm.
send a 3 minute clip of a scene of characters interacting,
Right.
of doing all of
Right.
these things. And so for the Hollywood machine, that's an incredible opportunity because now you've got a potentially huge pipeline of content you can
Hmm.
now go through. And then you have more people out there that can build it and create it quicker at a lower cost. And so that's the sort of the bigger idea of how this can accomplish and help in terms of empowering creators to create more. AI is
Right.
just a collaborative engine that adds to efficiency, pipeline, and much lower costs. So think about this, like that Higgsfield movie, because of the time and effort it took, that took months to create, months of many people program,
Hmm.
just like a regular movie. If you take out a lot of the exclusive expertise that's required, 2 or 3 people could make that in 2 weeks
Wow.
for probably,
Okay.
honestly, under $1,500.
Wow.
Oof.
For a
Yeah.
2 hour
It's
feature
it's
film.
it's a very
Yeah.
it's a very select breed, very select breed amount of people or like quantity of people that can actually get this done. Because so what I'm understanding is AI is just as good as the specialist who is working with the prompt engine itself,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And
And
then,
and that's
but
an example of one that they had creative control, but in order to have it,
right,
they had to spend all that time and money to get it to do what they wanted it to do.
okay. And for but you were saying that okay, these people can make it in like 2, 3 months potentially, and with a smaller budget. Isn't that kind of beneficial then? Because like if you were to make that short movie with actual humans, and you would need obviously a bigger cast, you'd need more equipment to film everything, and it would take more time because the logistics of it would take potentially more time.
Mhm.
I'm not saying like we should remove the human element or anything like that, but the concept of AI reducing, like increasing the efficiency and the productivity of making these kind of movies, it's it's starting to show more. Like, yes, okay, only a few specialists can do this, but eventually, with time, humans will adapt and they will learn these skills, and they will start being taught by these specialists, or they'll they'll create courses for it. That, like, the information will be shared. So
Yep.
will this will this become, like, better in the future, or are we in an AI bubble that's eventually going to burst because this is not actually sustainable, and eventually humans are going to get bored of, or they don't want AI anymore. So, like, the future is still unclear.
Sure. It is. And look, I think all of these types of big advancements have a bubble, right? There's the sort of gold rush of everybody trying to do everything, and AI is
Yeah.
the unicorn word right now. Just like internet was the unicorn word back in 1994, just like personal
Right.
computing was the unicorn word in the late 70s, early 80s. And I think of it some way, as you were talking, I was like, do you think accountants flipped out when Excel was created? Because wow, my job took way
That's a good
longer. I got to write in the ledgers. I got to, now what am I going to do if this computer does all of that for me? Well, to your point, Saeed, just now, you learn to use Excel, and guess what? One accountant can now have multiple clients, not just one. Are there a shortage of accountants in this world? Absolutely not. It's just a new way of working, right? Like,
Mhm.
and then with the internet, yes, everybody created everything on the internet. Every company is getting invested in, but sure, the cream still
Mhm.
rises to the top. It sort of figures itself out and where it fits in society in a way that works. And
I can actually disagree. Finish your point, but
go
I
go no
have
no
a like I can I want to disagree with you on that, because
sure.
um, I'll give you the example of consultancy, for example, or even
Mm-hmm.
AI, and then I'm gonna connect it with engineers. So
Mm.
there's an abundance of engineers. There's also an abundance of doctors in this world, because everyone thinks that those are, like, the most sought after careers, and you can never not get a job in it. Okay, granted, you'll definitely get a job with one of those degrees, but a lot of engineers are no longer getting degrees. Sorry, not they're not getting jobs within their field. They're getting
Mm.
jobs in, like, consultancy roles, or even AI tech, or sometimes they're just opening their own businesses. Like, I see, like, for me here in the Middle East, I see a lot of engineers that graduated from my university that all end up in consultancy or some form of data analytics, or something that is not related to their engineering degree. So that's why, like, I start to think, like, are just people adapting to what the market is providing, or is AI actually stealing jobs and then providing new different jobs, and then people are
Yes.
adapting to those new jobs? Okay,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
So
So it's more of just
I
like
think we're
what's
agreeing
running
just
with
in
the
a
market.
different way. in that no, like in that, okay, I'm not sure which analogy we're disagreeing with entirely, but if like the accountants, for example, right? The structure of how that industry operated had to change based on the available technology, and people,
Mm,
like, the degrees themselves even changed in terms of
Mhm.
how you learn to do what you do. Um,
that's true.
Sales, marketing, everything shifted with the creation of the internet. So the internet certainly took away opportunities from people who were working in what you could now consider antiquated roles, but many new roles
Okay.
were created as a result. So there was absolutely a transition. I think the interesting thing that you could talk a lot about too, just philosophically, is in moments like these inflection points where there's this
Yeah.
rapid leap forward in technology. It's very disruptive for especially those in college, recently out of college,
Mhm.
because there are certainly
Mm,
a large set of people who've graduated college in the last 4 to 6 years whose degrees suddenly became obsolete, which is
yeah.
crazy to think about. And so there's an absolute stressor in that, this need to pivot. Like, what do I do now? I learned how to code the best of any coder ever. And now
Yeah.
every single person on earth can do better than I can.
Mm.
Like, that is a
Yeah,
crazy thing
exactly.
to think about. and so, and so the question then becomes, though, who is going to see the opportunity and leverage this for their own and society's benefit? The best way we can leverage AI is not letting it take over everything, but discovering how can this empower humanity's creative advancements in technology,
Hmm.
all these other fields. Because just like
Right.
the internet and personal computing, it's speeding up human efficiency, arguably some levels of human intelligence, or at least access to that intelligence. Now, what do you do with it? Right? And
That's a
what
good
needs to
question.
be I hate to say it, but yes, there are going to be things that are replaced. But this is not the first time that's happened. And
Right.
when done ethically, great things can come out of it. Are there going to be, and are there currently being unethical things done? Yes. I mean,
Mhm.
there's still unethical things being done in personal computing and the internet. Like, you've got the
Mm.
dark web problem. Like, these things aren't going away. You know, AI will introduce its own versions of this. But you know what?
Hmm.
The people who still don't know how to use a computer or refuse to put their businesses on the internet because they were
Yeah.
just generally anti-internet, I'd say they're probably not better off.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I get not wanting to be able, like, to wanting to stick to what you know and what you're comfortable with and what you support, but at some point, like, you have to evolve with humanity, technology, and the way things are working here on Earth. Not to be harsh, but it's
No, no,
inevitable. AI is not going
it's a
anywhere.
fair point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true. It's a very fair point. And I see, like, actually we might be, yes, agreeing on the point. Like, people need
Mm-hmm.
to basically evolve with time, with the times, and evolve with how the market is moving and it's shifting, and they should be okay with change, because traditional roles, like, they still exist, yes, because we still need people to build stuff, we still need people to take care of our health. Those roles are still going to exist, but there's also a certain limit to those roles, and some people might need to shift or adapt to something different. Maybe they don't fully fit in one certain aspect in their position. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to another point about, you mentioned something really interesting about how AI might develop unethical, like, sites or situations. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what what have you seen AI do, or experienced, or maybe heard of, that similar to how the internet's provided the dark web? What is AI doing something similar on those lines? And then maybe we can segue into regulation, because you also mentioned
Mm-hmm.
that earlier.
Yeah, I think there's probably more than we can see, which is the scary part. But I
Mhm.
think a great example that I've noticed
Yes.
personally, one I've noticed personally, is fraud and scamming and phishing
Mm.
and data theft
Right.
is
Yeah.
has leaped forward in terms of sophistication. So you mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, I also own and operate an agency. I get
Yes.
requests. I get sent new business opportunities that you would have no idea are completely AI generated, where they have created an entire website and business overnight
What?
online. You can go in, you can request quotes. It's basically an entire business run by AI, no humans, all in an effort to get you to submit information and
Oof.
gather insights on your business and your personal life. Because now an
Wow.
AI bot can go in there and create an entire ecosystem of a business to anyone that's, even if you're slightly discerning, it will pass your sniff test. And so I have to be extremely careful now about the things I used to get excited about. You know,
Wow.
like, oh, I've
That
got a
is
new opportunity for $1
crazy.
million. Holy cow. And is this real? And you go to the website and it's got everything there. It's got people on LinkedIn. It's got all of these things. So people are using
What?
AI to create fake businesses just to steal your idea. And it's so intricately organized that it's almost impossible to tell the difference. That is an
Right.
example of one that
Yeah.
affects me almost every day. Um,
Oh my
it's been
God.
happening over the last 18 months with AI generated content. Like I said,
Hmm.
every single artist that's put anything on the internet ever, right? The irony of what we're talking about here is, oh, wish you would have gotten on the internet, you were left behind. Well, unfortunately, some of the people that got online, like artists, had no idea 10, 20 years ago that everything they were putting up there was eventually going to be part of a hive mind that could then recreate that on its own
Oof.
and make you obsolete. And so the only way to deal with these things is to, as you alluded to, which we'll probably get in more on, is the regulation side of things, and
Right.
companies that are going to choose to do this the right way, with the understanding and belief, which we have, is that eventually this regulation is coming down the pike. We have to be forward compatible with that and be ahead and understand what the ethical thing to do is. You can look right at
Mm,
ByteDance that owns CDance.
Hmm.
You know, they were at the forefront early on of a pretty big lawsuit covering all of these issues of IP theft. So what have they done? They've gone back and now they're a close partner of ours because they also strictly enforce IP artist protection to the
Wow.
point that, like, you can't get anything through.
okay.
I'll give you an example. I've been trying to create some stuff on PIPPA recently just for our content channel. And I created a cartoon with a character named Anna. Anna was flagged by Seedance and it refused to animate it
Frozen.
because Anna is a
Hmm.
character from Frozen.
Yeah.
The name Anna.
Ah.
If I put in my prompts that there's a flash of light, it will reject it because it thinks Flash is a DC Comics character.
Mm.
No.
Yes.
Isn't that a bit
If you
over the top
use
though?
it is, and you can tweak these dials within, but you have to do it with Cdance and prove your use cases that aren't infringing on
Mm,
IP. And so what it's also
okay.
getting good at is contextual understanding. That if I say a flash of light occurred, it's going to reason and know that I'm not referring to the flash.
The Flash.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm talking about Anna the dog in a
Hmm.
cartoon, it's not
Hmm.
going to think I'm trying to recreate Frozen. But
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
actually, though, better that they are erring on the side of excessive protection than the alternative,
I
right?
agree. Hmm.
Right.
Better to do that and then chip away at the contextual nuances, all while getting it right. Like I could rename my character. It's not like I'm married to the word Anna. You know what I mean? But it would be nice if I didn't have errors when I ran into that. And so that will happen over time. I think the scary part, though, is that ethics and capitalism, boy, they don't get along. Do you know what I mean? Like they just don't get along, and that's, I think,
I
the
wouldn't say
first
lately, I'll
real
say
inclination
always.
of that. Yeah, well, and the first sort of big realization I had, because this is, my generation was, social media. Social media has been around since 2005, 6.
Mm,
They still don't have that figured out. That's 20 years ago.
true.
And they're
Yeah,
still not
that's
effectively
true.
regulating that. So I think we also need to accept the fact that AI, it will continue to get regulated, but not enough. It'll
Mm,
never be enough. Just like social media, never going to be enough. Um, and the only way to, say, fight or rage against that is to show success by being ethical. And that's
Mm,
really what we're trying to do. That, look, artists, you have every right to hate AI right now, but we want to show
right.
you that there's a world that includes you and benefits you, frankly, to a pretty great degree if it's done the right way. And only over time and walking the walk and proving our hypothesis does that affect change.
Hmm.
Wow.
Maybe we should just regulate human beings instead of the social media. Restrict people to just 2 hours of
Side.
There's an
social media
argument.
per
There's an argument for that.
Just wanted to share that.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my
Sorry. Yes,
gosh.
Ali, go ahead.
Um, Said and I were both gamers. We love playing video games, and
Same.
we like can see how this technology and animation can be used in video games. We're also
Mm-hmm.
aware that like video games are becoming a bit more like it's in a rough spot right now with the lack of like CPUs and RAMs, and the
Mm-hmm.
pricing of all our
Yeah,
technology is going so much more expensive. New
it's crazy.
PlayStation's only getting more and more and more expensive every single year, and it's forcing a lot of like gaming studios to shut down, and there's a lot of like uncertainty within video gaming. But and we're aware that it's kind of related to AI, and so how do we fix that kind of balance? Because we do see that AI can have a positive effect in the future on all
Mm-hmm.
arts, but also in this current moment of time, it's a huge, it's tearing down the video game industry from our point of view.
I think that's fair, and I guess the only way I would look at it slightly differently is that it's the one step back, two steps forward sort of thinking. And I think this applies to a lot of these advancements in technology where there is this sort of, like I said, inflection point, this major shakeup
Hmm.
where the technology, AI especially, gets far ahead of humans figuring out how to deal with it. And in that moment, you could call it a different kind of bubble.
Hmm.
Things are lost before they are gained. And so video games is something really interesting because we were talking with a potential partner last week where one of the other technologies that's being developed is this ability to take, say, you create a 3D animated video content, cartoon of whatever length. And they've been talking about this for years, immersive films. But the technology now exists where you could create this world and then place it in any location in the United States. And with the call it meta glasses, you could literally go and walk around in the world you've created and
Mm.
interact with it. And now think about the impact on, call it open world gaming as an example, that you can create this sort of structure, but then it's a new sort of interface in which you play the game and interact with the game. And so I think for example with video games, that's a likely path of where this goes. We have to shed the way we were doing things before and now use this new technology to figure out where it goes from here. And as we're figuring that out, new opportunities, roles, and even roles for the consumer and player of video games have shifted and changed. But there is that sort of bubble around it for both industry to learn and consumers to learn
Mm.
how this is going to change things. And so, really, to me, it boils down where the best use of AI is how can we, anyone, any human being, utilize it to create something new of value to
Hmm.
people? Because now there's a whole new potential value offering that we didn't have access to create before that we can now create. And this is going to be applied to science, medicine, you name it. And are all of these industries going to be impacted? Yes. I would argue every industry was impacted by the internet. It just took a little bit longer and it didn't feel as disruptive because the technology wasn't moving as fast as AI. Social media technology moved much quicker than the internet. And
Hmm.
that's why they struggled to keep up and regulate it. The scary part of AI is that capitalism will stand in the way of being responsive enough to these problems and could certainly lead to a longer, call it bubble, of uncertainty, job loss, things like that. Because if we really did focus on doing this ethically and right and created plans to make this work, it should create more opportunity.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of how long it takes for it to do that. Just my
Said?
opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
But I'm an
Um,
eternal optimist at the same time, so you'll have to
yes.
forgive that.
No, we're also optimistic too. And so what about, yeah, the CPU shortage? Is that anything
Well,
that's
I
ever
wonder
gonna
how
get
much it
solved?
I think there's a lot of problems. Well, one, the tariff strategy isn't ideal.
Yes,
That's not helping anyone.
one example.
That's
uh,
certainly not helping the situation.
mhm,
And I think that, when you drive the costs up of something like that, sure. I mean, it starts having immediate impacts. I think there's also some, I don't know if confusion's the right word. I think it's like prioritization. It's like, look, everybody's jumping at this AI train right now, and they're thinking to themselves, how long are these chips and this technology going to be relevant? How much do we invest in this right now
mm,
as opposed to the
Hmm.
future? And what's the right balance? And I think because of the bubble we're talking about with AI, that's off balance. You know,
You're
everybody's
right.
shifting money, investments, and capital into future technology and the use of AI, which is, of course, taking from supply chain and production for current technology. And honestly, I don't see a world in which that changes dramatically. Although, and this is a rabbit hole, I think it will improve actually in the short term, mainly because of how the token economy is changing within AI. For the last 18 months, if you're a vibe coder or someone that's using AI to build things, it's almost been free. Like, full
Yeah.
transparency, we were able to build PIPPA because of the almost free token economy for exponentially less than it would create and than it would cost anyone to do it now. We're talking 10,000 versus a million.
mhm,
And because all of this AI technology and the use of tokens has basically been a loss leader for all these tech giants, right? That are just basically hooking people in, and then they're going to flip the switch like they always do
mm,
and say, this costs way more now.
I
You're going
see.
to see another shift, a big shift in the other direction, where all of this development is now going to drop significantly. Less people are going to be
Okay.
able to build the kind of things that, for example, we've built and many others have. And so the money's going to kind of come back to the middle a little bit
Hmm.
because access, right? Now, the people that had
Hmm.
access to all these AI tools before and AI games and all of that, it's going to decrease substantially. So, what do? They kind of revert back to a middle point of where they were comfortable. And I think, I mean, the way the token economy is changing is just, I can't understate the significance of how it will likely, in many ways, slow AI down a little bit
Hmm.
I mean,
because, yeah.
that's a fair point. I mean, the people who are using AI would definitely benefit from this, especially now. But the thing is, there's other factors that are also involved. So
Mm-hmm.
let's take, for example, the the oil boom, where everyone was just drilling for oil, and then it started expanding into other countries, and then wars even happened for just for oil. So in the short run, the people who were benefiting from the oil made billions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. But then there were other external factors, for example, the wars, the environment, uh, that have been drastically affected and are still being affected. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, from this in this, you could say the same is being applied by AI as well, because now
Sure.
the real est- the real estate is also being taken up by the data centers. The water is being affected by the data centers. People are fighting for deals on, you know, building these data centers and keeping up the electric grid for it and providing power, which in the long run doesn't look like we might be able to provide power or electricity for all of these data centers. So is it actually worth it? Because I think the development that is going to regulate itself or like reduce over time, and then the money's going to balance out, is not because of the prices are getting hiked up. It's because we are not able to provide more, and our planet is not able to even sustain it. And by then, when people notice, it's like, oh shit, we fucked up the planet. I, I
Yeah,
think it's a bit
you're
too
right. You're
late at
right.
that point.
Well, and again, I'm going to try and not sound too optimistic here. I'm going to do my best because you're absolutely right. But I see that is an example of an opportunity created by AI. And
Mm.
hang in here with me.
Okay, let's see where this goes.
Because of here's one example. Because of the stigmas around anything nuclear, very few countries have pursued nuclear power, despite it
Mhm,
being the cleanest, most
mhm.
efficient, most potentially powerful source of power and fuel on this
Yeah.
planet that is readily available. But regulations
Yep.
and fear from the Cold War and from other nefarious uses of that technology have prevented virtually any development in that beyond space travel. Right? Space travel
Yes,
uses
because
nuclear.
people are terrible. We know that.
Yeah, yeah. But AI is not going anywhere. And the only solution to the problem you mentioned, inevitably, is embracing nuclear power, which inevitably in the long term should clean up a lot of burning of fossil fuels and things that happen as a result of, the wasting of water, all of these things,
Hmm.
because technology in these areas has been resisted out of fear, and now it's become a necessity. So to me, that's one example of there's going to be an entirely new industry in fuel and utility built around the optimization of nuclear power that does not exist today. So, for example, the engineers, the electrical engineers of the world, all of these people, if they're playing the forward thinking game, I'd be looking into how do I get ahead in this specific area because the inevitability is the need for this nuclear power. That's one example. Now, you're absolutely right. The challenge will be how long does it take humans and those in power to accept, realize, and enable this? That's the scary part.
Mm.
Is
So
that
I see where you're getting at this, and I think that's actually a very good point. I never thought of it that way. So what you're saying is AI is going to force regulation against fossil fuels and force us to use renewable and green energy such as nuclear energy and eliminate that fear, or at least force us to get over that fear of using nuclear energy. Is
it
that
should?
is that correct? I mean, that's one way of looking at it. It's an amazing perspective. Like I hope that would be where we're going.
I
But
failed at sounding too
the,
optimistic.
no, no, it's definitely like
It's
it's a
possible for
theory. We
sure.
don't know if it'll
Hmm.
work.
Right.
Yeah, because if we really want to think about it, the U.S. shouldn't be having a war with Iran over the nuclear energy. That
No.
like that's just that's just one thing. If that's and because especially since
I mean, there's a
the
lot of
U.S. is like
reasons
one
that
of the
shouldn't be
biggest investors.
happening.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot
But
of reasons. Yeah.
true, 100%. But I mean, I really hope so. Like, because then you would actually remove that fear element. You would clean up the planet, and it
Hmm.
just the reason why I don't like I believe it's a good idea. I'm just not sold that people will accept it. That's
I'm
all.
not either.
Maybe I'm
Not
just too
not
much of
not now. No, I mean, look,
yeah.
this is why it's such a rabbit hole, is because
Hmm.
there needs to be pretty substantial change, not just in the US, but I think in general across many countries and who's running these countries. I mean, I think across the board,
Yeah.
the vast majority of, call it the United Nations, G7, etc., are being run by very antiquated older leaders
Hmm.
that, just like the
Yep.
accountants that didn't want to learn Excel, are they're like, no, like money comes from oil, money
Hmm.
comes from natural gas and mining and
Right.
manufacturing.
Right.
And there are many of us in the US, for example, where Donald Trump's like, oh, let's bring manufacturing back to the US. Nobody wants that, dude. Like, it's like nobody wants that. Like the whole point of removing manufacturing from the US is that it could be done more affordably abroad and provide more opportunities abroad and enable everyone in the US to focus on the next thing. And instead, we're
Yeah.
rewinding because we don't understand the next thing. Us, the older people running Washington, they don't understand new money. that comes from that. They want the old money. And here and
Yeah.
again, capitalism
Yeah.
does not support ethical advancement of business interests and global interests. Like, you get stuck in the money machine, why leave it? And it's
Right.
going to take a significant paradigm shift at government levels with younger
So
people that are thinking differently.
this is also something that me and Ali we were discussing the other day. Um, we're talking about governmental change. So what if AI was applied as a politician? What if AI became was involved in politics? What would they suggest? Like from your perspective, would they suggest these kind of changes that we're talking about, these positive changes? Would they suggest, yes, let's use nuclear energy. Yes, stop the war in Iran. Yes, stop. what what would
I
AI
mean,
do as a politician from your perspective?
I've asked it.
Hmm.
And I
Okay.
think that's always an interesting thing to pose. Even like, 3 months from now, the answer is going to be slightly different, but it always is pretty similar. And it calls out all the
Okay.
things we briefly touched on one way or another here when we're talking, is
Hmm.
that the the way people think about business, global affairs, everything is highly flawed. And
Mm-hmm.
and to
Right.
your point, I think that the reason it's so hard to think of this working out is because it's so complex and these flaws are so deeply rooted that it legitimately requires an entirely new way of thinking. I've asked AI, for example, what does capitalism look like in 20 years? And the most consistent answer is one that I provided on this, which is the social contract has to change. Some level of universal income will be
Hmm.
required, because the
Yeah.
only way to advance is if people are able to utilize AI freely to create opportunity and value for society. And the only way that that's possible is enabling exploration, risk, etc. And if everyone's a
Yep. 100%.
creator, the whole social contract of how one earns money is different. I'm not saying it's socialist or communist by any means. It's something we haven't figured out yet. That's the other scary part. Do I see the US, for example,
Mm.
being like, capitalism's over, let's move on? No. we, we're a pretty big problem there. But I think there's a form of capitalism that can be better and be more organized if you have the right people making and taking risks that could move this forward in a more ethical, better way. That remains to be seen. But I think it's also, if it could take too long and it could be bad, but it's inevitable. It has to, unless you believe that AI could suddenly go away, which,
That's not happening.
not
Yeah.
happening.
No.
And so, do I think that if AI was helping people run government, it would improve things if they actually took its advice? In some cases, yes, because AI can be trained to be objective. I think the problem is, and this speaks back to kind of PIPPA in a way, what AI cannot do very well is create brand new ideas. It's always running off of
Mm.
existing information. It can make hypotheses based on history, but true new innovation is very difficult for AI to accomplish because it has no point of reference on whether or not it will work.
Right. So
It
it
can
can't
provide
be
lots of
autonomous.
ideas.
Yeah. So
Right.
it can't be autonomous and then like actually be president, for example, and
Right.
come up with sign off on new proposals, come up with new solutions for the country. It can't do that.
I think the best it will ever be able to do is provide insightful recommendations, but it will never know.
Mm.
It will never be able to say with certainty this will work. That still
Mm.
takes the human mind to
Right.
create, to think through, problem solve, understanding the nuances of humanity.
Yeah.
AI is always going to be 100% objective, which is not humanity. It's not human. Like
Right.
there's
Right.
100% objective things that would be better for the world, scientifically speaking, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I mean, you could argue that the elimination of humanity in its entirety would be better for the earth. But is that a good idea?
No. No,
No.
no, thank you.
And that's why you can never put AI in control because Skynet.
There you go.
It's,
Wow.
I mean, James Cameron,
Oh
whether
my
he
God.
was prophetic, man. Like this is a legitimate problem. And so you
Mhm.
have to keep humans involved for it all to work for us.
Mm. But that's also another thing out of fear that we're acting on, which is the same thing
Hmm.
as using the nuclear energy. In reality, the actual fear is of other humans, not AI itself. Is that not right?
Correct.
We are
Yeah, of
actually
course.
afraid of what other humans can utilize these tools and how they use them against us. Because in reality, these things are not in themselves a danger. It's how they are used that creates the danger.
Hmm. I mean, just imagine how much the
Uh,
world would change if you just eliminated the ability to have more than $1 billion.
Wow.
Like, just imagine. Like, that's one change that would literally profoundly change the entire planet. And nobody needs more than that. Nobody.
Mhm.
Like, then that's not even money anymore. Like, you have everything you
100%.
want, anytime, anywhere. Like, you don't need more than that. Just because now that you have 2 billion, you're not better off. You're the same. You're
There's an
exactly the
argument that
same.
there's an argument that's been said that you don't need more than 10 million. Like
True.
you
Because your
know,
money will work
your
for you.
lifestyle is basically the same. Yeah, like you can everything else that you're doing like is just excess. It's like literally unnecessary.
Yeah.
Having more than 10 million is unnecessary. If you have a paid off house, you have the car, just nothing else is gonna, add to it.
I mean,
Okay,
right
you
now,
might have a
one man's worth can literally provide healthcare for the entire global population. One
Wow.
man. One.
yep.
Do it,
There are
Elon.
a lot of billionaires, by the way, like a lot more than you think. And that's just, if you think about that, that is insane that we've
It is
allowed
insane.
this scenario to be a thing. Like that, to your point, that's the sort of cynicism of it all. It's like, will humans ever be able to just say, no, you can't have more than $1 billion? There's going to be someone that's screaming, what the fuck? Like, why? Anyway, I could go on and on about that.
All good. Well, a lot of
That's
ethical discussion today, but I wanted to like end it by asking you a bit about how PIPPA like works,
Hmm.
because I understand that like regular AI large language models, they like scan the internet looking for words and phrases and try to rebuild that in a way that is understandable for us. So could you explain it like we're 5 years old? How does Pippa work in terms of animation?
As far as if you're a user,
Yeah, or just yeah, if you're my user and I want to make a cartoon about like a vegetable that learns to play
perfect.
basketball or something like that. How
Yeah. That's
how
perfect.
does that work?
Yeah. So one of my biggest passions with Pippa was, having worked in the agency space and marketing and running creative for brands for 20 plus years and having used AI for the past 3, 4 years, my biggest frustration is what I mentioned earlier, that I'm basically limited to what I tell it and then hoping it gives me back what I want
Hmm.
without me or the vast majority of the population being a prompting expert at that level. And so for me, it was about, this is not a input output platform. This is a collaborative tool. So to your point, you come in, you're like, you know what? I don't write stories, but I have an idea of a vegetable that wants to play basketball.
Hmm.
We have an option when you start your project. It starts with, what kind of story are we building? We've got traditional storytelling, we've got commercial, we've got
Hmm.
music video, whatever that is. But when you go in there, you have options on how you create that story. Some people come in with a written screenplay, a fully written story in prose format, or audio that they've told.
Hmm.
But we also have a Write with Pippa where you can go in, list some characters and a general idea for the story. You can select how long you want your cartoon to be and then generate story with PIPPA. But then it generates it right there in front of you into an edible or editable document.
Mhm.
Editable document. That's hard to say.
Mhm.
And so you can see the story it's written, but then you can write right in there and say, oh, that's fun. Or I want to add this dialogue. Or you say, oh, the story looks really good, but I wish this happened. You can just add notes at the end of the story on what you want changed or how you want it to be updated. Hit regenerate. It'll take all of your notes and regenerate it for you. And this in and of itself is the first collaborative process. Once you're happy, you continue. You can upload pictures if you have them for your character references or create them based on a description that you can write again
Mhm.
with in your own words, and it will translate that into the appropriate prompts. And all the while in the background, based on the type of story that you're telling, the complexity of it, we've set it up to choose the models for you based on
Mhm.
the most optimal model for whatever type of story, image, or animation you're building. And so it's constantly optimizing token use and optimizing models that fit the story you want to tell without you having to think about it. And then once you're happy with your characters, you continue. It will generate the entire storyboard for you with images for each scene. You can then, if you choose, you can review all the first frame images it has created. If let's say it got the first one is perfect, but man, there's an object in there that's not supposed to be there. It's like an AI mess up. You don't have to regenerate the full image. We have a whole suite of like AI edit where you can just say, remove the cereal box from the table,
Mhm.
and it'll just pull the cereal box out, keeping everything else the same. So you really start to have this ability to direct it with this level of detail, but all the while just using your own words. And then our engine on the background figures out the prompting structure for the model that you're using, optimizes it, and delivers it to you. You can then go in and see the entire, for example, sea dance prompt that it's written for that scene. You can change the length of the scene, the pacing of the scene, the camera angles. You can edit each individual prompt for what you want them to do. But you're starting with a fully written prompt. You're not starting from
Mhm.
scratch. And so what we're also finding is that as people use PIPPA, they learn. They are
Mhm.
quickly learning how to create using AI because they're basically in a class being shown the examples of how to do it over and
Mhm.
over again. So and then you can animate each individual scene. If it didn't work, there's this thing we have called the prompt doctor that's like, oh, this scene came out great, but the pacing was terrible in the last 3 seconds. Okay. And then it'll rewrite the entire C dance prompt for you to fix that problem and reanimate it for you, and it's fixed.
Wow.
But so, in some ways, if you really think about that on a scene by scene level, you really feel like the creator director of
Mhm.
this short film or film. Once you're happy with all of your animations, you move to our composer, which is basically a Pro Tools level interface that anyone can use. You can add sound effects, you can add music, you can add voiceover, captions, you name it. And it's all very simply laid out with lanes that anyone who understands sort of piecing a puzzle together can do it. And again,
Mhm.
throughout that process, you've got the PIPPA chat right there to help you. Oh, I'm having trouble doing this. What do I do? Oh, just let's move it here. You know what I mean? It'll give you suggestions. It's like having an assistant director.
Mhm.
Once you're happy, you hit export or share. You can download it in any format. You can share a link, etc. But the whole point is you can do this as a layperson with an idea that may just be a one sentence concept, like you just mentioned, a vegetable playing basketball. And
Mhm.
from that idea, you can end up with a fully realized animated short or full feature length film. And it's a back and forth collaborative experience for you that doesn't require you to have like sophisticated prompting and filmmaking expertise.
Mhm.
We try to take all the hard stuff out and leave you with the fun creative work.
Wow.
And it's a cool
That
experience.
sounds that sounds like a great experience. Making things, just like
It's a lot of
simplifying
fun. It's
AI for
a little,
artists. And
yeah. And yeah,
I
to
mean,
your,
Hogan,
as you
thank you.
just mentioned, the whole while the artists are getting paid. That is so important.
100%. I think that's like also one of the best aspects of it because artists need to be protected, especially in this going forward with this evolution of AI, and especially with all the things we're talking about, and you know, it can be scary. So as long as there's some sort of protection, that's, I think, a very important aspect and selling point for PIPPA. Uh, Hogan, thank you so much for hopping onto the podcast and sharing all of this insight, and you know, giving us this new perspective on AI. And honestly, hopefully some of the theories that you were mentioning and the perspective you shared with us, the positive perspective that you were sharing with us, come to light. That's like something we would love to see. Is there any final words you'd like to say to our audience before we sign off?
Well, first, thank you for having me and for asking thoughtful questions and pushing back on things. I love these conversations. It's not perfect right now. I am an optimist, but I also think, look, we have a lot to solve. And I think it
Right.
requires more people understanding the opportunities and the risks. And so thank you for letting me explore both of those with you. And then the only other thing I would say is please check us out. If you go to
Hmm.
www.gopippa.ai, you can sign up for free and try it out. There's no purchase requirement. You get free tokens to create a video without having to pay a thing. And we would love anyone's feedback that uses the platform. We're constantly trying to make this better, and would love to see what you can create. So give it a try, and we hope to help you explore your creative ideas in a fun way.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for watching another episode of A to the Show, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
All right.